They call Malawi a land of promise, but promise is not enough. And for Lazarus Chakwera, promise became a weight. Because in the September 2025 election, Malawians didn't just reject a man, they rejected a record. They rejected betrayal, torpid leadership, economic collapse, and, most alarmingly, the appearance of treason and hidden deals. This is Global Pulse News. Tonight, we peel back the curtain on the dark truth of Lazarus Chakwera, why Malawians rejected him. We're not here to lionize. We're not here to criticize without cause. We're here with facts, evidence, and voices from the ground. From the mystery surrounding Saulos Chilima's death to accusations of misuse of state funds, secret alliances, and a growing perception that the government was slipping into treasonous territory. Here are 10 critical truths that explain why Chakwera lost, why many believe the hopes of 2020 were betrayed, why trust collapsed, and why the people finally said no more. Let's begin. Number 1. Chilima's death, a tragedy with unanswered questions. In June 2024, Vice President Saulos Chilima died in a military plane crash with 9 others near Mazuzu. The weather was cited, the aircraft was an old military type, and visibility was poor. But the response triggered public fury. Residents from his home district blocked roads, accused the government of slow rescue efforts. Many called for an independent inquiry, doubting official explanations. Some believe Chilima's death exposed hidden fractures, accusations that he had made deals behind the scenes, quiet promises for political advancement, and that he was silenced before possibly challenging Chakwera more openly. The mystery between what was public and what was whispered added to disillusionment. But death alone didn't undo him. It was what politics did next that pushed many Malawians over the edge. Chilima's allies say he secretly backed Chakwera's re-election bid before his death. Constitutional limits barred him from running again. So insiders suggest a deal was made. Chilima would stay loyal, avoid public attacks, and in return receive political and financial assurances, maybe even a created role like prime minister. When corruption charges against Chilima were dropped, many saw that as part of the bargain. But when death took him, that deal turned into suspicion. What had been hidden now set a pattern, leaving a void both political and moral. As Chilima's legacy weighed on the people, Chakwera's governance itself began to betray the promises made. Malawians felt inflation hovered around 20 to 30%, food prices were rising, and the currency was weakening. Basic staples and fuel became luxury. Unemployment surged. Dreams of growth and reform felt distant. When a leader speaks of jobs and hope, but citizens worry day to day about which meal, which medicine, which school fee, the gap between rhetoric and reality is no longer ignorable. Some ministers were sacked for neglect, but many felt Chakwera's administration reacted slowly when speed was exactly what was needed. But economics alone doesn't explain the betrayal many felt. There were allegations of corruption and misuse of public resources that pierced hope even further. Reports emerged of secret meetings between Chakwera's party and chiefs, civil servants, religious leaders, often accompanied by untransparent cash-out handouts. These meetings, some say, aren't outreach but influence campaigns, blurring governance and politicization. When hospitals can't get supplies but funds are allegedly circulating to buy loyalty, perceptions of corruption harden. Also dragging public faith down, when corruption investigations are selective, delayed, or dropped, especially involving people close to the presidency, trust dissolves. Many Malawians felt the state purse was no longer for public service, but for political insurance. From money to mandate, once the public suspects betrayal, legal and symbolic actions follow. Chakwera was accused by state intelligence, NIB, of conspiring with civil society organizations to engineer regime change, including alleged funding for demonstrations and unrest. These are serious charges. Treason is a capital offense in Malawi. Whether they are true or exaggerated, they moved public conversation into dangerous territory. Is dissent now criminal? Some saw these charges as attempts to silence opposition under the guise of national security. Also seen in cases like the arrest of MCP member Ulemu Musungama under allegations of regime change through leaked WhatsApp chats. These moments confirmed what many feared, that the rule of law was being twisted. But fear alone doesn't topple leaders. It's the reaction of the people, how they choose between fear and voice. Many Malawians voted not for the alternative, but against Chakwera. The North, historically a swing region, surged away from him. Citizens who once supported Tonse Alliance felt betrayed. Political analysts say Chakwera lost support not because Mutharika regained glory, but because Chakwera's weaknesses were too visible. Hope fatigue, experts call it, when repeated crises erode patience and promise becomes burden. For many, voting became a desperate call for change, rather than an endorsement of any platform. Crucially, this disillusionment didn't wait. Legal struggles and constitutional tensions piled onto it. Chilima's inability to run again due to constitutional limits under the 2009 court ruling was more than a legal technicality. It shaped expectations, alliances, and resentment. Chakwera's administration also faced criticism for failing to respond quickly or transparently to corruption cases or legal challenges that involved his own allies. Also, when charges were dropped without clarity, many interpreted it as political calculus. When legal systems are seen as tools rather than checks, trust is lost. Which is why many believe that betrayal was not accidental. It was part of a pattern. Chakwera promised change, integrity, accountability, jobs, medical supplies, and infrastructure. But over time, promises felt like scripts being repeated. When hospitals still lack essential medicine, when schools lack classrooms, when disaster response, cyclones, drought, seems delayed, perception grows that promise is cosmetic, not structural. Religious leaders, once supporters, publicly criticized his government's failures. The vision that lit millions in 2020 dimmed under daily struggle. Because when vision fades, anger builds. Trust is built slowly, destroyed quickly. Malawi's institutions, the judiciary, anti-corruption bodies, and the election commission were central to Chakwera's message. But when civilians saw selective prosecutions, slow responses, whispering alliances, and executives attending secret meetings, their faith faltered. The crash of Chilima, unresolved questions, and rumors about insider deals all fed into suspicion. That trust wasn't lost in one scandal. It was eroded drip by drip. By election day, many didn't believe in promises. They believed in accountability. And that brings us to the final truth, the verdict Malawians delivered at the polls. On September 16, 2025, Peter Mutharika won with about 56% of the vote. Chakwera got about 33%. It wasn't a narrow loss. It was a decisive repudiation. Analysts say many voted for DPP not because they embraced Mutharika, but because they rejected Chakwera. The economy, the scandals, the perception of betrayal, and the death of Chilima all combined into protest ballots. Young people, disillusioned rural voters, and even former supporters stayed home or switched. The message: insufficient trust, too many broken promises, and a leader who became emblematic of what people wanted to escape from. So where does that leave us? Malawi rejected Lazarus Chakwera not merely because of one failure, but because of many. The death of a beloved vice president with unanswered questions, secret pacts, economic pain, corruption allegations, legal overreach, and promises turned hollow. Chakwera was not ousted by scandal alone. He was defeated by expectation, by the memory of what people hoped for, and by the fear that his government had drifted into betrayal. Malawians didn't reject a party. They rejected betrayal, they rejected delay,
They rejected governance that spoke volumes but delivered little. What could Chakwera have done differently? Full transparency into Chilima's death, honest audits of public spending, initiatives that made a visible difference in health, agriculture, and jobs, turning legal frameworks from obstacles into protections, restoring public trust before it snapped. For us watching, for those outside and inside, this isn't just Malawi's lesson, it's universal. When leaders underestimate the weight of promise, the burden falls on the people to hold them accountable. If you found these truths illuminating, if you feel the urgency, the sadness, maybe even hope, like this video. Share your thoughts. Was Chakwera's fall avoidable? Could Chilima's death have reshaped things differently? Subscribe to Global Pulse News. We'll continue to dig deeper, bring you the uncomfortable truths, the stories leaders don't want you to remember. Because history isn't just what happens, it's what we don't forget.